This is the briefing for Wednesday, December 13th. Well, if Buzz Lightyear was around, I think he'd say to infinity and beyond. After the announcement by the Fed, the market really strengthened and really took off. And I really need to stress that the market strengthened from an internal perspective. Now, these are hourly charts of the three indices I track, which is the spiders, the Qs, and the IWM. And you can see this was the beginning of the day, again going into the announcement, and then of course after the announcement, and then in the press conference, the market just continued to gain strength. Important to this is look what happened with volume. Volume just exploded on this move, except for the last hour of trading. It subdued somewhat, which is not anything to be worried about. Breadth exploded. This is NYSE breadth. This is NASDAQ breadth. You can see how strong it is, and breadth in the Russell was very strong as well. We closed near the high of the day. That suggests that the market would continue going higher if it hadn't closed. Therefore, I suspect that we'll potentially see additional upside in tomorrow's trading. Now, the important thing to remember is that there are times when traders go home after a Fed announcement and realize that the reaction to the announcement on the day of the announcement was a little bit of an overreaction, and sometimes we see an entire move retrace, and that's happened in the past. Although I really see this as being a very strong internal move, I'm going to be cautious tomorrow at the open, and at least in the first hour of trading. I want to see today's high taken out, and I don't want to see it back through today's high again. Now, we did reach a point of being slightly overbought in today's trading. You can see that. This is the NYSE and this is the NASDAQ. So basically, we have to anticipate that potentially after tomorrow we may see a pause. And that would be important also, because if we do continue higher tomorrow, that would mean that potentially on Friday we're going to be reaching really important key reference areas, meaning that we could be breaking out in the spiders, the Qs, and the Russell into new all-time highs, and maybe not so much in the Russell, but in the spiders and the Qs. I understand the Dow. I don't track the Dow. The reason I do is because it's only 32 stocks. I like to analyze the broader range of stocks because a rising tide floats all boats. And so I really want to see what's happening in the broader market, not just in 32 different stocks. Looking at the S&Ps, this is a weekly chart of the S&Ps. I showed it last night. Now, this is a rotational pattern in a long-term time frame. So you can see that this goes all the way back to November of 2020. This high was made in January of 2022. So really going back 3 years, we have just been in a rotational pattern. Now, what happens when we reach this 480 level in the spiders is going to be really important. That is really very, very strong resistance. But the strength that I saw today, if it carries through, we potentially will test it, if not today, potentially on Friday, unless there's a change in perception of value overnight. And then we'll see what happens as to whether we can break through this level or whether we're going to see another rotation back down again. Now, in a shorter term time frame, in a daily chart, we can look at this. Let me change this to a daily chart. So you can see what this was, that smaller area. We've just broken out of that area, headed up to the 480 area. Now you can see volume ticking up today, bread ticking up today, 52-week highs minus 52-week lows, strengthened in today's trading. So that is all positive for potential carry through tomorrow, assuming, once again, I have to qualify it, that there's not a change in the perception of value after tonight. The Qs, same thing, approaching this 410. I think that's 410, yes, 410 area. That's much closer to this resistance level. You can see this going all the way back to November of 2020. And then, of course, this is November of 2021. And then, of course, you see the rotational pattern that the Qs have been in for quite some time, for a couple years. Once again, let me change this to a daily chart, and you can see here's the daily rotation that we've been watching. Pause right at the upper key reference area there, and then of course closing at 403.74. 410 is upside resistance, very important resistance in the Qs as well. Russell lagging somewhat, you can see that this was the high going back to November of 2021. This is the rotational pattern it's been in for quite some time, and you can see it has not quite approached this 200 level. I think that's 200. Yes, 200. Breaking through the 190 level, which was the next level of resistance, is now support. Interestingly enough, volume fell off in the Russell today, but breadth expanded. Going back to the spiders, support is at this 460 area. That's really important support should we see some type of a turn down tomorrow. And in the Qs, support's coming in right around the 388, 389, let's call it 390 area. Keep it even. Now, looking at total volume, you can see NYSE total volume exploded, NASDAQ total volume exploded. Very strong day internally, very strong day in price development. Let's look at the percentage of stocks above their 50 and 200-day moving averages. Now, this is weekly, so you can see that we are approaching, going all the way back to this high in August of 2022. So you can see that we're approaching that level of about 90% above their 50-day moving average, and in the same thing in the S&Ps, about 70% above its 200-day moving average. In the NASDAQ, you can see about 66% above the 50-day and 51% above the 200-day. In the Russell, 81% above the 50-day moving average and 57% above the 200-day moving average. And you can see the trend in all of these is up. It is not declining. I don't see any divergences right now. The only divergence, the only indication that I am concerned about in tomorrow's trading is what happens in the first hour. If we see follow through and we hold above today's highs, then that's going to suggest to me that this strength is carrying through. If we open up below today's high, we are slightly overbought. That could suggest a pause. On the other hand, if we trade much through this area here, these last three candles, if we trade much through those areas, that's going to suggest the high of yesterday is going to get tested, and that would not be a positive sign for carry through for the markets. So it's going to be a very interesting day tomorrow. Should be a very exciting day. Watch what happens on higher highs with the internals as we are approaching an overbought condition. If you do see divergences, tighten up your stops. Otherwise, I would expect to see the weekly upside resistance levels that I've just outlined to be tested before the end of this week. Have a great night, and I will definitely be picking this up tomorrow. It's going to be an interesting day tomorrow.